CERN is creating energy levels so extreme some people wonder if the technology could be weaponized. Birds and other animals around the collider have been dying right when experiments are running, and deep in the lab, an experiment is firing particles that might vanish into dark matter. These are more disturbing signs CERN may have ripped through reality. Everyone thinks CERN is just this massive science lab where physicists smash particles together trying to figure out how the universe works. That's part of it, but some things about it have made people a little uneasy. There's been talk, nothing officially confirmed, but talk that some of the technology developed at CERN, especially the particle beams, could have military uses. Particle beams, in theory, could carry huge amounts of energy over long distances. People start wondering if some of the knowledge or data from the collider could be useful for defense research. Even if CERN is strictly doing science, it's hard to ignore the overlap between what they're creating and what could be weaponized. The collider is a 4-mile ring that can recreate conditions that haven't existed since the first fractions of a second after the Big Bang. That kind of energy is insane, so it's not hard to imagine that particle beams could do way more than just smash protons together. People living around CERN have sometimes noticed weird things with animals, especially birds. Over the years, there have been reports of flocks suddenly dropping dead or animals acting strangely near the collider. Nothing official has ever connected this directly to CERN's experiments, but the timing and location does make some people wonder. It's easy to shrug it off as coincidences or natural events, but when it keeps happening around the same giant machines smashing protons at nearly the speed of light, I don't know. Some swear they've seen birds suddenly fall from the sky, animals acting all erratic near open fields close to the facility. Scientists would point out the particle beams are safely contained and there's no evidence of radiation leaks, but they're also dealing with pretty cutting-edge experimental stuff here. You can't anticipate everything. Even a subtle magnetic or electromagnetic influence could, in theory, disrupt the wildlife in ways that we just can't fully comprehend yet. And it's not just the animals. People near CERN sometimes talk about a certain strangeness in the air during active runs. Now, could that be paranoia? Yes. Could there also be something genuinely odd happening? Maybe. NA64 is an experiment at CERN. The name stands for North Area Experiment 64, and its goal is to find dark matter, the invisible stuff that makes up most of the universe but doesn't interact with light, so we can't see it. Here's how it works in simple terms. Scientists fire a beam of electrons at a target. Normally, when particles hit a target, they make other particles we can detect, like little sparks from a collision, but sometimes energy seems to just vanish completely. Physicists think that missing energy could mean a dark matter particle was made and flew off without interacting with anything we can detect. Every time the electron beam vanishes like this, it's basically poking at a part of reality that we can't normally see. Now, they're not finding anything yet, but each run teaches them a bit more about what dark matter could be and where it hides. It's kind of unsettling when you think about it, though. The experiment is probing a potential realm that's invisible to us. People near CERN have been reporting weird dreams ever since the collider started running at full power. I'm talking alternate reality type stuff here, and it's always right after big collider runs. The timing is really what freaks people out. Someone will have one of these dreams, check the LHC schedule, and realize it happened the same day protons were smashing at record energy. A bunch of these reports started popping up online. People comparing notes, trying to figure out if CERN is somehow affecting their dreams. Now, this could be total BS, or maybe the collider is briefly warping reality. Let's talk about time crystals. Yes, time crystals. That sounds like a MacGuffin in a Marvel movie, but time crystals are actually a thing. They're basically a really strange type of matter. See, normally if you leave something alone, it stops moving eventually. Atoms in a time crystal never stop. They keep flipping or moving back and forth on their own forever. Scientists at CERN are experimenting with these so-called time crystals to see how they interact with particles in their collider. Now, they're not creating a portal to another dimension or anything like that, at least not intentionally, but the fact that something can move endlessly on its own is kinda nuts. When you combine that with the enormous energy of the Large Hadron Collider smashing particles at near light speed, well, it's easy to imagine that some unintended crazy things can happen. Time crystals are harmless by themselves, but they do show us that there are a lot of things in the universe we just can't even begin to understand. CERN has a lot of odd little details around the campus that have caught people's attention, mainly to do with the number 666. Some of the older equipment and walkways have markings that, if you squint, do line up with the number, kind of. And there was also a thing about a year back about 666 being hidden in the CERN logo. And people really take patterns like this seriously because, for one, this is the internet, and people have a lot of time on their hands, and two, CERN is a place where engineers and physicists are obsessed with precision. So, to be fair to this conspiracy, repeated symbols don't usually happen by accident. There's nothing proving any kind of ritual or secret meaning, but when you do consider all the other strange things, like the mysterious hums under Geneva that we talked about, I believe in part 2, or reports of weird glitches in reality, and just the nature of the experiments themselves, well, it's easy to see why some people find the symbolism kinda creepy. It's the kind of weird reality glitch story that people will talk about when conspiracies surrounding CERN are brought up. Plus, this happened in 2009, about a year after CERN started doing their current tests. So back in 2009, a guy named James Richards says he had one of the weirdest experiments of his life in California. He was out driving near Del Porto Canyon with his dog when the dog bolted after a rabbit. James chased after it, tripped, hit his head, and blacked out. When he came to, he wasn't where he fell. He was in a room, and it looked kind of normal at first, but there were also machines he didn't recognize. A man then introduced himself as Jonas and told James that he worked for a, quote, dimensional travel agency. According to Jonas, while James was unconscious, he'd been transported to a parallel version of Earth. This other Earth, it looked a lot like ours, but with some major differences. For one, in Jonas's world, the Beatles were still alive and making music. James was skeptical, obviously, until Jonas handed him a cassette tape labeled Everyday Chemistry. On it were Beatles songs that don't exist here. James brought the tape back when he returned to our world and later posted the whole thing on his website, which you can listen to. People living near CERN sometimes say that during big collider experiments, the night sky can get a little weird. Stars they always see suddenly vanish for a few seconds. One minute everything looks normal, the next chunks of the sky are just gone. Astronomers haven't reported anything unusual, and satellites aren't showing missing stars either, but for the people who notice this, the timing is kinda sus. Some wonder if all that raw energy underground could somehow bend light and mess with the atmosphere just enough to make stars disappear. Even if it's just your eyes or brain playing tricks, a lot of people describe the same thing happening at the same time. Pretty weird. Speaking of weird stories like this, that brings us to this story from Reddit user Electronic Employ 3049, who posted this story about a month back, writing, "I saw something last night and I've been questioning our existence since. My neighbor saw it with me too, so I know it was real. We were watching a satellite go across the sky, right by the third star down the handle on the Big Dipper. The satellite went on by when the unexplainable happened a second later. It was like the sky glitched out for a few seconds, as if someone smeared the sky with their hand in a particular area. Like it was pixelated, or had some strange pattern over it, kind of in a striped, flowing square shape. I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, but then my neighbor said, 'Dude, did you see that?' I couldn't believe she saw it too. And then every hair on my body stood straight up. I was speechless, and still am. Are we in a created world? Is this a simulation? What did I just experience? I can't wrap my head around what I saw last night." And finally, there have been rumors from scientists working at CERN that some unusual collision data just vanishes. Certain particle readings, things that don't make sense with known physics, are reportedly removed or corrected before anyone else sees them. People who've worked near the detectors say it's not always a technical error. Some patterns disappear too cleanly, too perfectly. These claims are never officially confirmed, and the researchers talking about it prefer to stay anonymous, which is always a little suspect. But it does make you wonder if CERN is covering up things that could be bigger than anyone realizes. I'm your host James though, and I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.